to go into kind of an interview style questions. And later, we'd love to have other folks be able to join and participate, come up and ask questions, let us know how you're doing. So we really appreciate having participation from other folks that are here. All right, so with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and do the quick introduction for the space. So this is a space I had started close to a year ago now to shine a spotlight on talented artists who are part of this whole Web3 space. We basically do in-depth interviews here to really learn more about the artist behind the art. And in the process, we hope to bring greater awareness to the artists, maybe foster some new connections, and maybe also in that process, inspire people who maybe have a creative passion to start their own journey in this space, creating and sharing their artwork. It's a very inclusive space, so we welcome artists of all nationalities, backgrounds, artistic styles, whether they're already seasoned professionals or just emerging talents. We really try to bring you guys a diverse range of voices from the Web3 space. And we like to celebrate, how art and creativity brings us all together. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jenny to introduce our special guest for today.
Thank you. Custom Horror is an innovative and creative visionary artist with an impressive collector base and 230,000 in generated sales. He is known for artworks that express his current state of mind and draw and channel his unfiltered inner child. He is also a community builder and a well-respected artist in the Web3 space. And with that, Giancarlo and I welcome Custom Horror to the stage.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction. Feels good, man. Thanks for having me.
No, it's our pleasure, man. Definitely. Thank you for being here today. I thought it was also very apropos that Friday the 13th, we have Custom Horror on the space, it's perfect, So very excited to have you here. Great to really, and excited to just kind of dive in and get to learn a little bit more about you, your art, your process, and several other things that we have prepared today for this space. So the way we usually like to start it, right, is maybe Custom Horror, you could take 5 minutes and tell us a little bit more about yourself, the emergence of your Custom Horror alter ego, and a little bit more about maybe how you transitioned from barista to full-time Web3 artist.
All right. Yeah, of course. So like back in 2008, prior to that, I didn't consider myself an artist. I probably was, but that wasn't the career path I would chase. I would do other things. I'd be a graphics designer, and I knew I wanted to do something creative, but I don't think I really dared chasing what I really wanted, or maybe I just didn't know it was possible back then. And then as a graphics designer, I ran my own business. Didn't really go so well. It did at first, perfect, easy. I just graduated, I had my own clients, and I did really good for myself. And then I think there was a crisis around, I don't remember exactly, but a little bit before 2008. And the way I ran my business just didn't work anymore. It wasn't enough what I did. And I didn't really adjust to the situation. So I lost clients and I didn't get new clients. And it was going downwards. And I had to start looking for other jobs, and I'd work at a gas station. And this is how I suddenly started working for people in the coffee business. And back then suddenly it was 2008, and I decided, I probably at my worst point in my career, at least as in terms of sustaining myself, I wasn't doing good. There's no money, and then I decided, hey, I want to be an artist. I think there was I felt there was this breakthrough in my thinking about what it is I really want to do. And I think I remember some quote, I can't quote who it is, but it was something about you're already doing what you really love doing. And now it's up to you to figure out a way to make a living out of it. And I've always been drawing. So that sort of resonated really strongly with me. So I was yeah, I want to be an artist. And I think initially I was I want to be an artist that's known for creating monsters. That's what I called them. They're just characters. But back then I wanted to have something to sort of have something I could brand it around. So I wanted to be the guy who drew monsters. And I started on a venture where I'd like draw a monster every day, and I did that constantly. Like I think I managed, which was like a great win for me, like almost 500 days in a row without a break. I'd go home from parties. I was like, oh, I have to remember to make a monster. And they were just like silly, small creatures I'd do that took everything between 5 minutes and 15 minutes. And back then already digitally. And so I'd start that venture, but I knew, okay, this is not going to make me money. Like not immediately. I don't think I've ever been naive in that way. I just like felt this is what I want to chase, but I was aware, building up a name for myself and like doing anything that would actually pay my bills within that realm would probably not happen right away. So on the side, I would still chase jobs as a barista for others. And very quickly I'd open my own business, because then I thought I could also promote the artist in me if I created like this that was also a gallery, which was also a music venue, which was just like this creative little hub. So I did that for 5 years and I enjoyed that a lot. And it was everything I sort of dreamed of, but like at the same time, there was periods where I'd create less, because like, doing a full-time business at the same time, even though I'm not one of those people that can just do everything. I can like, I have a certain amount. We all have a certain amount of energy, and you decide where that goes. And I think that running my own business, which was economically unviable, by the way, I opened it in the poorest district in Copenhagen, next to alcoholics. And I got a lot of help from urbanization and stuff like that. I think the reason I dared to do this, because I thought gentrification would happen really quick. So I was like one of the first coffee shops in this neighborhood, but I was wrong. It took 5 years and still nobody would survive. Like all new shops would close, but I sort of managed to hold it up for 5 years. But during that time, I would still work on that alter ego Custom Horror and like sort of spread the name. And my current logo is basically a sort of combination of the logo from the coffee shop, which was called Monster Times, and now it's Custom Horror. But like the graphics around the name is sort of from back then. No, so I do that. Where was I? Okay, so I keep on working on that, and eventually I just have others again. I need to make money. I start making a little bit more as an artist over time. I don't know how many years we are in now. I think maybe 4 or 5 years in as an artist as well. And I'll sometimes sell something here. I'll be invited to participate in an exhibition, or you just make some not commissioned work, sort of like maybe decorate a wall. But I already then knew I'm done with commissions. I only do stuff that's my own. Already then I was like, no money and as long as I do this, that's what I wanted, right? And if there's no money in it, that would be cool too. And I even sometimes had like this feeling, I don't think I felt like gave up, but I was like, with the speed of how I grow and the income is coming, I was like, I might never reach, a full income that would actually sustain myself. But I felt really good about doing this like on a daily basis. At least that was my goal, because I didn't always. I'd actually feel horrible about it if I didn't do it, because like there's been periods in my life as a artist where I'd come to a point where I actually didn't do art for months, and that would like totally kill my self-esteem. I would like be, wait, how am I an artist? I don't create anything. Like what's up with that? But like, and the best thing that happened to me was finally realizing I cannot have a full-time job and venture in and then also build a career as an artist. And I think that was the biggest starting point of finally increasingly leaning into becoming an artist. So I would I just minimize expenses. I'd rent out a room. I'd slowly, even on a low wage coffee shop barista job, I just do less hours. And I think at some point I reached to a point where I only had to work 3 days a week for somebody else. So I'd have 4 days to do what I wanted. And within those 4 days, I tried to build my career as an artist. And to some degree, successfully. Money-wise, maybe not so much. Yeah, sure, I earned more than before. But it was more about feeling like I could dedicate a lot of time to creating. And that just like made me feel like an artist and made me feel like, yeah, money was an important thing. But then NFTs came along. And I was just like, I'm trying to build like the social media on Instagram, and I've tried lots of things. And I think it's minimum how much income I came from that. But then I see NFTs coming up, like, because in 21, I think we all see the Beeple sale, and I look into it. It's not my first look at NFTs, but it's the first time I decide, oh yeah, this might be something. And I researched a little bit, and I saw artists. I sort of defined my worth on like, okay, actually on numbers and socials, like, okay, how good am I and how many people do I reach, right? And I looked at people and the prices they sold art for and NFTs translated into US dollars. I was like looking at their profiles. I was sort of expecting them to be some big names within art, but no, they didn't have a stronger following on Instagram. They didn't have, it looked like, hey, there's people at my level that actually make, to me, like from where I come from, crazy money. So it's like, okay, all in. I just jumped in and I spent my money from being a barista on minting. It wasn't cheap back then. And here I am now. I'm doing it full time. And like the transition was really quick. I quit my job 4 months after that. After that moment where I rediscovered NFTs. I hadn't minted before, but I've heard about them. I bought kitties, crypto kitties, back in the old days. I bought 2 and forgot about it. Like, but still, so I had like sort of looked into it, like was aware it existed. And I think my second touch with my second experience with is somebody reaching out to me and asking me, "Are you selling NFTs?" And then they linked to a Rarible account, which was me, which wasn't, but like my name and my art. And they were actually selling art. And I remember I wrote that behind my head. Okay, so somebody's selling my art. That sounds interesting, but I didn't have the energy to look into it. I was just like, so I just wrote Rarible, that's not me, please close the account. But it's like, hey, it just to sort of take a note that might be interesting. Then I forgot about it again until 21. And I was like, oh yeah, there was that time they were actually selling my art. And like, maybe I should try that too. I think that covered what you asked.
Yeah. No, I think definitely. Yeah. No, appreciate you kind of like walking us through your whole story, and it was cool. Like, yeah, just learning more about like the fact that you going back to like creating your monsters, every day and doing that for like 500 days. And then your experience, then starting up your coffee shop and doing that. And then kind of realizing that, you couldn't do the business and also create art, and, it's hard to kind of balance that. And then seeing that you were able to then later say, you basically took this leap of faith in yourself, right? And said, okay, I need to create art. I got to do this more. Right. And it's so cool that like you went pretty much more or less full time, into like creating art, and then you discovered NFTs, and then 4 months later, you're like, all right, that's it, I'm all in. So that's really awesome. Yeah.
The real full time was after NFTs. Like the reward of making a little bit of money from NFTs early on, that totally changed me in relation to work ethics. I've never worked so hard as I have after NFTs and seeing some money come in, because like that, it's like a dream come true, which also motivates to like, wow, okay, now it's all in. Because before that, yeah, I'd minimize the hours I put into working for somebody at a coffee shop and stuff like that. I had to sustain myself. but it was like far from full time. And those 4 days I had for myself, that's a weekend and a little bit of work as an artist. It was not what I do now. I think it changed me as a person, as an artist especially. And in retrospect, I feel sort of I was a lazy artist since 2008 until a lazy / naive. A little bit like driven by, when I feel like it. Now it's like, no, I create art every day. I do something to further my career every day, at least.
No, that's awesome. And it's cool that like Web3 is what really pushed you into that state of like really getting much more disciplined and driven with the creation of your art. And you create these amazing artworks. So I've kind of been diving deep into your website and collections, and I mean the art is just phenomenal, right? And you describe it on your site and profiles, right, as something that like kind of channels your unfiltered inner child, and that they're based on these happy, dark, nonsensical, and grotesque intuitions. So that was just a really great way to describe what these artworks actually look like. And I'd love to know a little bit more about how the inspiration for these pieces like come to you, and what does the process for you actually creating them look like? If you could share a bit more about that.
Yeah, of course. So like throughout my life, my current style was sort of born during one night, but that's not, it's an accumulation of fooling around and having fun with art for a long time. And I think I very often allowed myself to be at whatever level I was at. I very quickly found that if I compared myself with other artists or like where I was, that would be very detrimental to my own ambitions or like my own drive. So I think I was really quick to be like very satisfied with where I was and just being aware and having faith that with time I will become better. Like just by practicing, but just by creating and having fun and just like embracing what comes. But to some degree, it's a balance. Like there'll always be a judgment from yourself. But to me, my practice is about being not judgmental to myself and abrasive of what I do, including if it's ugly. And I think my practice is very much about embracing ugliness and whatever comes and finding beauty in that. Instead of trying to shape it into something perfect, which is also amazing. And I admire artists that know their craft to a degree where they can maybe kind of shape a thing to the extent exactly how they thought about it. Maybe I doubt many artists can do that, but like at least they shape it a little bit like a designer, art creator. Like you make beauty, but I find beauty. Like I feel like it's the way I look at it that makes it beautiful to me more than maybe it actually being beautiful. So all my life has been sort of a struggle of like trying to avoid looking at others, because sometimes I'll be, it's appealing. You see something is freakishly beautiful, and you look at it, and you're doing something extremely opposite, and then there's this moment where you kind of feel inferior, and it's like, well, why? I didn't even chase that route. Like, let's say photorealism, right? Sometimes I'm like looking at photorealism and I'm like, wow, in awe of it. But like, since I didn't do it, and of course I'm bad at it, so I dabble in it. I would try, and I could see, if I pursued it, I would eventually become better, right? But right now I'm here, and if this is my judgment of myself, I'd look at myself and like, I'm horrible at this, and that was not fun. So to me, it was like just much more about having fun. So I had this experience one night, which I considered the birth of my style. Was I had, after a long period of not feeling really good about myself, which also meant when I don't, I would stay away from drugs. Like I'd like to enjoy psychedelics a lot, especially when I was a young, non-worried person. But like then sometimes, you know, reality hits, and these kind of drugs can like sort of elevate like what's already in there. So I'd have to face all those demons, and I'm like, no, I don't want. I'm going to stay away from that until I feel better. And so there was a point in my life where I felt really good, and I was like, okay, it's now time to maybe have fun, try that. So I'd do some LSD one evening. I had a roomie that had access to a lot of stuff, so if I wanted to, I could. So I do LSD. I just have so great fun. I just felt so amazing. And then he would tell me, you should try some ketamine on top. I was like, I was just open to anything. I had never tried ketamine. He just put a little bit of ketamine, and I had this amazing, crazy, magical experience. But what happened was I'd pick up my iPad, and for 4 hours, I'd start painting. Like Gollum, I would sit in my sofa and like, this is a mime. and everything would be moving while I was painting. And I had this experience which was the closest to what I consider like pure intuition and non-worry and no, like just, I'd go to one space of my canvas, just like in this little area. I'd do a little story for myself. Maybe it was like a little character hugging a dog, but it was like quick. It was like right here and right now. And I'd move on to a different spot. And finally, when I finished, I don't know how many hours this would take, I would look at it. I was still a bit, I was tripping. I was looking at it and I was like, wow, this is cool. But you know, it's probably awful when I wake up. Like I, you know, we'll see. So I put it aside, and the night passed, and I woke up the day after, and I look at it and I was like, wow, there's something here. Like what? This is wild. And I'd print it and I'd look at it and I showed it to people, like my friends, and like it was very different from what I did, I feel. And I was like much more free and like just expressive and a lot of things happening. And since then, so I felt like, wow, that was amazing. And I was like, had this kind of glow about me from having that experience. And then I started making a series. I called it Gates to Intuition, which was, you know, I would be sober. Like I just tried to remember what was it that happened? Like what sort of experience did I have, and tried to mimic it. You know, then I feel like the rest of the series, they're sort of similar, but there's a difference. Like there's like, you know, I could mimic it, that experience, but obviously it wouldn't be the same. But since then, I've sort of had this like very intuitive practice where I really attempt not to judge myself, to some degree at least. You know, like I it's never the same as what I experienced that night, but I learned a lot, and I feel it has painted what I do since then drastically. That was really fun, and yeah, so yeah, I feel like that was a revelation of what I wanted to do in art. And since then, things have changed a little bit. Like I would say back then, if you ask me, my art had never had a story. Unless, I mean, maybe, but like only because they emerged while I painted it. Now, sometimes I'll set out to just like maybe have an idea what I want to do, and I already have like sort of a sense of where I'm going. So it's not always like that, but I'm still trying to be very, very intuitive and abrasive.
Wow, that's so cool. And there were so many things you hit on and mentioned there that I loved, right? That point about like, you know, embracing the ugly and finding the beauty, right? As opposed to trying to make something perfect or beautiful, but saying like, okay, I'm going to put this here and I'm going to find something beautiful out of that. And then getting to a point where like not judging yourself, but just allowing yourself to kind of create intuitively. And it's so cool to hear that story too, that like from that LSD trip with plus ketamine, you know, you just like completely just started freely creating, and all of a sudden your like style emerged. So man, thank you so much for sharing that with us and kind of walking us through that. And one kind of follow-up I had on there as well in terms of your process is, because I know now you also like incorporate some, AI also into your work, so I was curious, like, do you usually start with something that like you create and then you use kind of AI to like enhance it, or just, I was curious about how you incorporate some of that into your creations, or is it like, or the other way around, like you do something with AI and then you know, manipulate it or adjust it?
So early on, so either I just do a blank canvas and I just paint digitally or on paper, and that's the entire process. But when I use AI, initially I started with Midjourney, I think, and I think this is when it also sort of started changing on, because like about that intuitive part, where it's sometimes I sort of already know where I'm heading at, because I'm already defining a story in the prompts. So it was sort of, because like usually when it's a blank canvas, and it is pure discovery, very often at least. But because of AI's emergence, and I started being a little bit curious about it, my first venture into it would be, I'd ask for some sort of stage or scene, and that already fills me with inspiration of where that could go. And I would usually prompt and I want it to give me some sort of characters. And then for me to accept it as a piece of mine, I would then pull that into Procreate, which I use when I paint digitally, and then paint my layer on top of it to make it mine, to feel like it's still me. And that was a lot of fun. And I think to some degree I had this experience where, like, because initially I was very resistant to AI, and also like, is it really? And I ventured in these topics about like whether it is me, whether I can take credit for this amazing craft, because like the AI outputs things that are, a lot of skillful people wouldn't even be able to paint, right? So first I was a little bit resistant, but then as soon as I could make it my own, I totally took all the credit for everything it helped me do. I think it has like this great power of like making us feel like amazing artists, because like it would add some depth to some of my works I would never add myself, because I could ask it to create like this scene, and then I could, instead of creating my characters on an abstract background, then suddenly I could create my characters within a certain setting that emitted something or told a story. And that was really fun exploring. But then eventually what I did is that I created my own model where I fed everything I've done in the NFT scene. And I created a lot, like, I don't know, hundreds of artworks, 300, 400, 500 artworks or something. And then I fed the model. So now when I use AI, I actually prompt my own model. So it's like a way to make, it depends on how you weigh it. You can either go full custom horror model, and then it basically can't even tell what a shoe is, because like I rarely, then it'll just be very abstract, and it'll almost always have a bunny character with a wild face and bunny ears. But if I weigh it a little bit less, then it can still remember some of the standard model stuff. So it sort of starts combining. I can maybe ask it to paint a shoe, for instance, and it'll understand what a shoe is, but it'll have some of my strokes in its interpretation of my strokes. So I often now, when I use AI, I prompt it with something that's based on what I trained it to do, and then I paint on top of that. And there's a series I call SPAME. That's when it's only the model outputting stuff. Well, I didn't even paint anything on top of it. It took me a while to embrace that as something I would. So it's more like a joke. That's why I call it a SPAME. SPAME is a spam AI art, because I can basically just produce no effort. Like I can just press a button. I mean, sure, I initially trained the model, but from now on, I can just write a little bit and press a button and make thousands of them if I want to, right? And they'll be unique every time. The AI is amazing that way.
Wow, that's so cool. Thank you for explaining that. And that's amazing that you train the model with your artworks, and now have it to the point where you can use it very quickly to do something in your style. So no, thanks for sharing that. Dan, you want to go to your question?
Yeah, definitely. One of your pieces of art titled SpongeBob SquarePlace, and I pinned it up to the space here. It's an
Yeah.
amazing piece that draws from the style elements of the cartoon SpongeBob SquarePants. Are there any particular cartoons that you grew up watching that were inspiring or influential to you?
Yeah, I'm sure like so like about inspiration, it's hard for me to depict what has actually snuck in under my skin and made me create what I create. But because I'm a firm believer that any input I've had throughout my life, I'm the product of that. So like when I create art, probably a lot of things where if I had an aha moment because an artist made something amazing, or I had an aha moment, or just like had a lot of fun watching a series, then it probably has inspired me somewhere on through my ventures. I also played a lot of games throughout my life. So I'd say like something that I've really loved throughout my life is anime. Like very early on, I would love like I was like blown away in the 80s by Akira and Ghost in the Shell. And I was so young, so I didn't even understand it so well. I just thought it was so cool. I don't know, it was amazing. And then later in high school, I would actually jump on all like these popular what do you call soap operas, like just series like Naruto and Bleach. I like things that awaken the kid inside of me, and I think anime does that. Like, you know, like you have this protagonist, this hero that like ventures on adventures and kicks bad, like, you know, becomes a badass and kicks those villains asses. And I even and they make villains attractive too, right? Like it's right, like it's all like it's just, and that energy of cool, I've always liked that. And I think maybe it shows in my artwork sometimes. I think I like that like kind of cool and darker vibe. Even though I don't always consider my art horrific, like even though I'm called custom horror, I can talk about the name later, um, because it's not horror in the traditional term. That's not my idea about it, at least. Um, so yeah, anime definitely. Hip hop and street culture has always inspired me. I think I think I'm just like this kid that's like, yo, cool, you know, and then I think that goes into my art too. Uh, Things that seemed cool to me growing up, which is like hip hop culture and anime and the movies, badass villains. Um, I'm sure they made an impression on me without pointing out more than just like as a general term.
Got it. Super cool. And yeah, I'm a big fan of anime too. I have kids, and it's interesting to see like their anime and the quality of the anime too, and just all of that. And also a big fan of hip hop culture. So yeah, and I do see it. I actually do see it when I was looking at your art and looking at that particular piece in particular. I thought it was really cool. One thing that I noticed in your object is that you have a tag that you use, digipressionism. And I was really curious if you could define, in your terms, what digipressionism is.
It's very simple. Digital expressionism. That was my idea. It's not very well thought out. I was just like, I want to like eventually, if I reach an audience that's great at some point, like greater than it is now, I just wanted to be able to frame a term which would represent my art. And so I'm just consistently using that tag. And if that ever becomes a reality, I'm going to be proud of it. Yeah, I created digipressionism, but it's expressionism and then digital combined. That it's so simple. Nothing like very deep behind it.
No, I love it. And it stood out right away. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, of course, it's digital and it's expression, and I love it. And I hope you do get credit for that because it's really catchy. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to
Thank
start
you.
using that now. Start mentioning it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm so proud. I've had another artist be inspired by my art and do the same. That was really amazing.
That's dope. So, you've had a very, very successful Web3 artist career, right? So the stats are very impressive. Over 1,000 collectors, more than 230K USD in sales since 2021. No small feat. And I was curious, like, what do you think have been really like the biggest factors contributing to your success in the space?
I think timing, luck is a big part, but also my work ethics. Like I mean, I've not worked so much with anything in my life. I think, at least not as passionately. So yeah, I might have put just as much time in when I had my coffee shop, because I had to open it and close it, and I couldn't afford workers like employees. But I think because I had like this taste of success early on. These numbers. It is to promote, right? If you spread it out, I started since 21, and you take these numbers and you dilute it, and on top of the crash, I didn't pull out money. I'm a semi-broke artist now. Like, but I'm on the edge of like, I'm making it. I'm just barely making it, and I'm doing everything I can to sustain that, because like I felt like, okay, I lived the dream for a while, and I still consider it living the dream. But as an artist, the income pressure is, I mean, it's not fun for anyone. Like, I prefer just having fun creating and not worrying about that part. But I am very embracive of like what it requires. Like, so it's not that's when I talked about being naive earlier. Like, it's not enough just to create. Like, there's so many facets of being an artist, which eventually could lead to success economically. And then it's also like, what do you define as success? I felt successful back then when I worked at 3 days as a barista and barely made any money as an artist, but I felt successful if I created art daily. But of course, now I want to like kind of defend my fort and see if I can go stay full time here. What was the question?
No, I mean, I think you're answering it, right? It was just really like, what did you think were the key factors that have led to your success in the space, and being able to reach that many collectors and sell as many pieces as you have in this time, right?
I definitely feel, okay, partly luck, but also a very strong work ethic. I've been showing up every day since 21 and like putting a lot of hours in. And maybe, because like some artists take a long time to create their art. My art is quick, and it maybe is very suitable for a space like this, or like for this era, like of quick consumption. I can create an art piece between 15 minutes and 4 hours, depending on how I feel, and just because like, to me, creation is that explorative and like very intuitive experience. And since I'm not striving for perfection, I've reached a point where I'm like, this is done pretty quickly. And also because I embrace a lot of random stuff. Like I've recently started doing paperworks again, and some of I actually yeah, that's fun. Just a quick, I started working on paper again. I didn't since 21 until maybe 2 months ago, and that's so fun because like I missed how random paint acts when you fool around with it. I have to mimic that digitally. Like, sure, there's a lot of random, but you can't really make a real splatter. You have to mimic a splatter, and I really enjoy that. And so sometimes now I actually paint first on paper and then I finish it digitally. That's really fun. So maybe because I can produce a lot, because the things I create are not things that take several days. Some artists work on their art several days, right? And then then you can't output as much, and then I don't know, maybe that I have something new to show every day. Like maybe not anymore, but like very often I would have something new to show every day.
Cool. No, thanks for sharing that. And I think there's definitely a lot of good takeaways there too, in terms of the work ethic, right? As well, that, you're putting in the hours and producing stuff, and I think that also, that like not striving for perfection and embracing the randomness definitely is a good takeaway as well. One thing I was curious about, since you have been in this space since 2021, and I feel like time in this space is, feels like a year, almost feels like 5-10 years, it's kind of crazy, right? In that time, right, since you kind of started here, what do you think has been like the most memorable moment you've had in Web3 to date?
For me, it was actually in the beginning. And I think, so when I started minting on different platforms, I tried to get on curated platforms as quickly as possible. But then my first mint would be on Rarible. So I was so lucky that my first mint ever was an edition. And I'd have one of the editions sell that same night when I woke up. That was my first motivation. Wow. First mint, first sale within 24 hours. That's more than I can say as a traditional artist several years before that. Like, I created something and it had to be displayed over and over again, maybe before it sold or whatever. That was a good experience, but then I didn't sell for several months. But it's still that experience though, still like kind of sustained my motivation. I'm like, okay, I do believe in it and I do see other people sell. So when you talk about like what was my most memorable experience, that's what I'm going to talk about now. So I was in a group exhibit in real life. Had nothing to do with NFTs. And it was during Corona. So like it was in Christiania in Copenhagen, and I was with other talented artists, and we took shifts to cover the opening hours. So I'd be there, and there'd be barely no visitors, obviously no sales, and I'd just be walking there, tending the gallery, looking at that art, and just like, but basically on my phone, right? Because I was interested in the NFT scene, right? So I'd be on Twitter. But then I had my first big sale, and I was there, standing right there, and like, and to me it was like much above what I usually sell, even like in real life, right? Like in real life. I mean, this is real life too, but like, but traditionally, like on paper, on canvas. And I had this moment where like, wow, I'd call up my girlfriend then, I call my mom, I was like, shit, okay, this is real. This is happening. And I think it's like $1,000. And to me, that's a lot, especially back then, for one digital artwork, which I maybe spent 4 hours on. And I loved it. I mean, sure, but like, this is like 3 or 2 months in without any sales beside that one thing I mentioned. And then what happened? Then another sale came in, and another sale came in. Within 2 days, one whale collector bought everything I had minted since the past 2 months. He spent $10,000. I was sold out everywhere. And it was shocking to me because like, I remember I felt the pressure. Wait, there's only one person. That feels wrong. I mean, does he own my soul now? Like, what is this? Like, is he gonna DM me and tell me how to live my life as an artist now? What is this? I reached out, I thanked him, and it was amazing. And like, that gave me a lot of motivation, and that spiraled sales a lot. So I think there's so much luck in that somebody decides that they believe that, okay, this guy, yeah, I'll pick up his stuff. He doesn't know me, and we then connected later. Obviously he liked what I did, or else he wouldn't, I hope, right? He never asked anything of me. But since then, I have this great story to tell. And I consider that lucky, right? So early on, 3 months in, he buys everything, and I can say I'm sold out on all platforms. And that, that catches other people's attention, and it sort of starts a really good venture and a very good first year in NFTs. And since then, it's been going okay. And now, the crash is happening, and like, we all suffer. I mean, I'm doing less good, but I'm here.
Still here. Oh, thanks. That's awesome. What a great story.
Yeah, I love that. We're happy you're here. You had touched on something earlier about training the AI model based on your style, which you developed over the course of the many years of you being an artist. What advice could you offer traditional artists who are curious about incorporating AI into their artworks?
What advice? I mean, if they're open to it, just try it. It's very easy. It's a very easy entry. I think to enter that world, I think, if I don't know if they're not technically inclined, if like really not using any computer stuff, then maybe I see how it can be a little bit like, but then go on YouTube and check it out, see if it's something for you. I don't know what advice to really say, because like I feel either you're interested in it or not. Like, and I understand if you're not. And if you're not, then like, I'm not going to tell you to, but you should, because no, that's up to you. I mean, it took me a while to be really curious. I'm always like sort of late. I mean, maybe not in a big scale, like, because like none of us here in Web3 are late. Like, even if you're, but it can feel late because everything goes so quick, right? So like, I've seen like maybe happening in front of my eyes, not knowing it was AI sometimes, I think, because and then when you start using it, and I can spot it, right? At least often. I think I come off with a no answer. I don't think I have any advice. If you're curious, check it out. Like, and it's amazing what it can do. And I do see it as a tool, and I do respect artists that use it in a way where it becomes their own. I think that's important to me.
No, I think it's actually great advice, and I love your insight on that. I was going through a lot of your artwork, and there was one that stood out to me because of the composition and title, and it was called "Imagine Eating with Your Mouth." It made me think that perhaps you were talking about a different type of consumption. And earlier you stated that you don't aim to deliver a specific message consciously. So I was curious to know if you can share what may have been what you were thinking about that inspired this piece.
Yeah, that was to me like this. I definitely didn't have any intention while creating it, but no, that's not true. Before creating it, but then while I'm creating it, and they sit here, and I often make the characters, I have no idea why they're there or anything. I just sort of like just have fun creating. And then I decide to write something. And sometimes I force it, and it's almost always stupid. But then other times I actually feel it's like really funny to myself, and I'll write it. And that's the most fun I have, is when I giggle myself. I was like, oh, yeah, imagine this. So to me, I think this was not deep to me either. I just thought, okay, what would be like a strange thought? And I think to me, it just like dawned on me, like, imagine a place where what we do, which is like regular, is just weird to them. So it's like this alternate universe where somebody is just like laughing or like, oh, well, imagine if you ate with your mouth. Because obviously we do, right? And that sort of makes it like kind of mysterious to me. And but mostly it's a joke. Like, most of my stuff is a joke. Not always, but there's some depressive stuff and like some dark stuff in my work here. But I think this was a joke. Yeah. What is your? I'm really curious. What is your impression of it? Or like, what were your thoughts about it? Because a lot of people see what I do in their own way, and that is so exciting.
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny because I totally get what you're saying, like that it was a joke and more of like what an alternate universe where people don't consume with their mouths. But me being like, I guess more of like always looking for like the other meanings and stuff, I kind of took it that there's different types of consumption. And so maybe we're consuming things not with our mouths. That's the first like ideas that sort of popped into my head.
Like consumption, like buying stuff, like Twitter, like
Exactly.
for
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, that never came across my mind while creating that piece, but I see that, and that's so amazing. And at some point, I want to talk about my name, Custom Horror, in relation to, like, at some point, if there's room for that, let me talk about that.
Actually, let's do that now. Yeah. Why don't you tell us more about the name Custom Horror? Yeah.
Okay. So initially, when I decided Custom Horror, it was like to be as open-ended as possible in what I could create. So the word custom just means, to my liking. I can change it. And so, and I just like the word horror, but it has nothing to do with horror. It's just because I can customize my horror to my liking. So I can make horror cute. That'll be my custom horror. It's like it's an attempt to define a flexible rule in my name, which defines what I do, which is anything. It's just to give me freedom, basically. That's where the name came from. But then also with the artworks, what I see in them often, and I'm kind of questioning whether there are deeper meanings without me knowing, because like since I'm doing it intuitively, I might not, like narrate the final output to the, like in details, but I do find myself looking back on my artworks and finding much more meaning afterwards, which is so interesting to me. And also with my name, I've had experiences where I later find much more meaning, because initially it was as simple as I just said, custom whatever I want to do. Just, I can customize the horror. But then afterwards, it relates to, like, for instance, how I've been sort of anti-customs etiquette, like anti, like, why are we all doing Christmases? Why are we doing this? Like, and it's sort of like, I don't know, there's some part of me that like sort of is repulsed by it, not in a like, oh, I hate it, but like at least sort of avoids it, like traditions. I don't really I understand them, especially later, but I was like, all right, good for you guys. If you love Christmas or if you love birthdays, I understand it, but I don't have the drive to. I think I have the opposite drive. I have the drive to not do it because everybody's doing it. I don't know. Like, it's very like maybe childish and simple. So I think in my name I found like that represents it as well. Like, I'm bad at customs, like what everybody expects of me, and I find freedom in that too. To just, hey, I don't think anybody has to do like everybody else does it, and I feel I allow myself to do me. So, and back to the artworks and how you perceive them, which I found, which is so freeing to me as an artist, is that when I put out a piece, it doesn't matter if I like it or not. It also doesn't matter what message I put in it. Because like, maybe you'll know after you ask me, we can have a conversation about it, right? But up until we communicate, it's entirely up to the viewer to have that. I think there's like this unique moment of you consuming my art and your life experience or whatever you bring to the table, and you guys do your thing. And it has very little to do with me or what I intended to do. And I find that so freeing in two ways. Like, one way is like, it doesn't matter what I do, people will have their own experience of it. And also then I don't have to stick anything down your throat, like, because you'll do you, I'll do me, and we have two experiences, and we can talk about it, of course, right? But also about whether in taste, because I found like what I sometimes feel is like my most interesting piece, it just doesn't resonate with the people I ask, and also my own taste. Ask me a week after, then suddenly the piece I hated, I love it. And this gives me so much freedom to, I mint artworks I don't like. I'm just like, well, I'm not feeling it. But I have had so many experiences where like later I'll feel it, or later I'll have a different opinion of it, or that it sells even though I don't care for it. So like, and that, so to me, it's more like create something to like, just some form of satisfaction. And even if it doesn't satisfy me, I just work to some degree where I'm like, yeah, okay. And I think people should do that more. I don't know. There's some freedom in that. Just realizing we all have so different tastes. You don't have to please anyone. At least only please yourself. In case it's okay to have a standard, right? Like I acknowledge that. But to me, I even like to to not even adhere to my own standards sometimes, because I find that some others will still love it.
Oh, Jenny, I was wondering if you were going to comment on that one. So I was waiting.
Yeah, no, I was waiting to see if you wanted to say something. But yeah, I really like that. And yeah, I mean, I feel like we do need to do that more. I certainly need to do that more as an artist. Like I definitely know when I like something and then I want to share it, right? But to also dislike it or maybe not like it as much and just put it out into the world, and that's something I've never done. So I'm going to try that one day. Thank you.
Yeah, try that.
Yeah.
I promise you somebody will love it.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that because, and I've talked to like other artists about this sometimes as well. Like there's certain times where I've like created something, or I know somebody else that's created something, and they think like, oh, this is great. You know, this is going to do so well. And then maybe it doesn't have that good of a reception, or other people aren't as excited about it as you are. And then maybe putting out something that like it feels a little bit more like lukewarm, like, okay, yeah, you know, and all of a sudden like it gets like, and you're just like, what? Like really? But I feel you about that. Like sometimes, or creating something and then putting it away and then looking at it again and having a very different appreciation or perspective on it, you know? So I like that. I like that thought process. And I think I need to also do that a bit more of like, maybe even something I'm not crazy about, just, you know, put it out there and see, you know, just see what reception it gets. But that's really cool.
Exactly. Like trust in the process, trust in the time you've spent. You know, if you like some of your artworks, at least you've worked your way up to a point where you satisfy yourself to some degree, right? And then from here on, then trust in that like most of what you do has the same amount of talent, craft in it as those that you like. And of course, some will be worse than others, but it doesn't really matter because somebody will pick up on something, somebody will pick up on something else. And I'm also a believer of quantity creates more diamonds than, you know, fiddling with one piece, trying to make it a masterpiece. I think you'll have more masterpieces among 200 average artworks, or not average, but like the point is like, if I produce 200 artworks and I'm maybe not focused about, I don't put all my focus in trying to make each a masterpiece. I just focus on creating and having fun and trusting that I become better over time. And then if you look among those 200, there will be some of them that probably might be masterpieces, you know, like, but then again, who decides that? I don't know. But there definitely, I do think that some are will just be better, and maybe also like not only subjectively, but to reach those, I don't think it can be forced. I think you working can be forced, and like, you know, creating and keeping creating and like keep sharing, that can be forced, but you can't force yourself like sit down, I'm going to create a masterpiece. I don't believe in that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And it was making me think a little bit about, you know, stuff even outside the art world, right? That like, it's, you know, getting those reps and practice and doing more, you can do a lot better than trying to like, you know, try to make something perfect. And it was some experiment or something I remember, or some study I remember listening to where, you know, they had people like work in different teams, and then they told one group like, you have to make the perfect something, you know, and then like when they had that in their mind and they were trying to do it, versus another group that said just make as many of these as you possibly can, don't worry about at being perfect. They ended up making something that was a much higher quality and whatever than the team that like spent all this time trying to make be perfect, and I remember what it was exactly, right? But it kind of goes to that point you're making, that like if you just keep creating and producing, over time, you will do better than if you're really trying to, like you said, like fiddle with one piece and force something to be like a masterpiece, right? So I think there's a lot to be said about that.
I believe in that for sure, and I've heard about stuff like studies like that too. Yeah.
Awesome. So I know some of your collections, like the Jijo, and actually I'm not sure how to pronounce it. If it's Jijo or just Joe.
Yeah, Jijo.
Okay. Some of them, like Jijo, have special perks for collectors, right? And I was hoping maybe you could tell us a little bit more about some of these collections you have with special perks, and what kind of things you do offer, collectors that pick up pieces from them.
For sure. So I have my initial perk collection would be Demjo. That's like my main, or like, in my opinion, most attractive. I actually don't know if it's the most attractive for my users because it's more expensive. But like back when the PFP frenzy started, again, I was a bit late. I would be like, no, I'm not going to do PFPs. I was like, no. But then, oh yeah, I will. So my first PFP collection would not be Jijo. I'll talk about them in a bit. Would be Demjo, which are painted in VR, and each Demjo would be uniquely painted, and it would have a unique tune to it as well. I produce some of them, but I'd also work with other musicians. So I thought in that time when I thought that maybe they could do good, because like I think everybody did still images, and I actually did one-of-one paintings in VR with audio, which reacted to and the pieces react to the audio. So to me, I thought that was a lot of value for a PFP, even though when I think about it, you can't use it as a PFP because like you can't use animated stuff on Twitter. But like, I didn't think that through. So that was my initial collection with some perks where people that have them I run this ecosystem on my Discord, and one of the perks would be to be part of raffles every month for my phygital items, and that's still the case. I think I changed it, but like so my phygital items, like my one-of-one pieces, which come with a gallery quality print. So this would digital paintings, which with a print. So people that own those would participate in these raffles if they claimed a spot on a monthly basis. And the Jijo are basically the same, but they cost less to acquire. But there's a weekly raffle instead of a monthly raffle, and the items I offer in the raffles are still one-of-ones, but they don't come with prints. And there has been a change, like it has been even more attractive to own these items before, but because of the crash, and then I'm trying to also make it realistic on how much I produce giving away. So now the pieces you win as a Jijo owner is one-of-ones on Tezos, to minimize minting fees for me. That's just something I had to do. But yeah, I give away a lot of art, like so five pieces a month at least for people that own these two. And then there's other perks, but there's very specific to the Discord. There's an economy running there where people can do a lot of stuff, and they can own certain items, and they will acquire like this kind of fake economy money, and they can purchase my NFTs, which I then airdrop to them in a Discord shop. But if you want to know more about that, then just join Discord, and I'll introduce you one-on-one if you want to. But that'll be like a little bit too like, so I don't know. I don't know how to put that out in a very simple way.
Yeah, no, I feel it.
If you want to farm my art without spending money, you can do it on Discord.
Nice. So can you tell us also about any upcoming projects or goals you have for your art career? What else can we expect to see from you in the future?
So right now I'm running this member pass, my first, I have like this token gated limited time project over 3 months. I know you just picked up a pass on secondary.
I got one on
like,
secondary.
We're halfway, we're halfway in there, and that's been like it's been a really good experience. I did this with we have them as listeners here. NFT Pulp, are they still here? Yes. This is NFT Pulp is a bunch of really cool people that create tools for artists to connect with their collectors and to help them build business around existing collectors, and they have helped me put together this, which is very much about appreciation, because like during this time where it is very harsh, it is an attempt to, it's like also an awakening, because like, you know, when things are going good, I focus more about creating art and just moving forward. It's like about for the next sale and the next sale, because like if it works, it works. But then when it is harsher times, which I experience now, I sort of, I won't say I totally forgot about all the collectors, but like I obviously didn't forget about those who show up on Discord, because then we have like, you know, ongoing communication. But you know, as you mentioned before, I've been so blessed with like an enormous amount of collectors, and a lot of those connections are only based on a transaction. Like, but I realized that's a connection too. Hey, they bought my art, and you know, and I might be a little bit spoiled having this many that I actually didn't connect with all of them. But then this project was an attempt to like sort of extending gratitude and showing appreciation and offering a lot of value to those. So all existing collectors would basically be on a whitelist already to acquire the Remember Pass. And it's like a very cheap entry to get a lot of art for free, where I basically create 6 generative projects every second week for 6 weeks. Oh, wait, is wait, it's 12 weeks total. It's 3 months total. So 6 weeks generative projects, and the other 6 weeks is you get like exclusive access to an auction of pieces on paper. Without going into details, I will probably do more of these kind of projects, because why I'm talking about this is like what I'm going to do in the future is I'll definitely focus more than I did before in my career on showing appreciation and value towards existing collectors. You guys are the reason why I am here and living my dream. And you know, I'd always like, you know, thank somebody on Twitter, and like, you know, that be like some become friends, but I'm definitely more focused on trying to sustain some sort of relationship with existing collectors and giving them rewards, or like offering them ways to acquire more art, maybe at a different price range, if we can build this kind of relationship. So something like pass gated projects, like time limited projects, where I offer a lot of value, more than like a pure listing. Like, you know, if I just listed on, you know, they'll have a different price. But if you're in on some of the member pass projects, then you can get the same quality but for less.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately I didn't catch it from the beginning when you started this one, but I thought it was such a cool idea, you know, to kind of offer that and reward your existing collectors, you know, with the pass, and give them the opportunity to both, you know, get pieces that they could mint for free, but then also have that like exclusive auction at a lower price point. So yeah, I think that's really cool, and excited to see more of these things that you're going to do in the future. So that's awesome. All right, Jenny, you want to go to the next question?
So we tend to end our interviews with like a series of lighthearted questions. So I have a couple, and Giancarlo's has one. So I'm going to ask mine. Since you were a barista, what is your favorite drink to make or order at a cafe?
I mean, since I was a kid, I think my mom got me into it. It's lattes. I just like love lattes. Like, it's a double shot. Like, I don't know, this size cup is how many use that is. It's but pretty standard size, at least in Copenhagen. I know that we all have different. Even lattes are different from country to country. So a Danish latte, I think that's very similar to an American one. I like really smooth milk foam. Like, I like it to be able to make a pretty hard. That meant so much to me. But actually, I stopped drinking coffee.
Oh, you did? Wow.
Yeah, like after, I used to be sort of a snob when I worked as a barista. For a few years, I was like, wow, if I spent money at a different coffee shop and I could see they didn't do their work well, or they just I felt like, wow, I'm wasting my money. This is horrible. But at the same time, I know also it takes some time to master it. So I'd actually only ban coffee shops after 3 bad attempts. Like I'd have this rule. Okay, yeah, sure, this was bad. Okay, I'll try another day. This is still bad. And then on the third, okay, I'm not going to spend money here anymore. But because I know it can go wrong, I made my horrible lattes for my customers as well, throughout my time. So I was like, I had empathy for that, and maybe it was a new worker, but back then, yeah, just lattes and like really nice milk, like foam, that meant a lot to me. So it was like silky smooth in my mouth. But then after I stopped the coffee shop stuff and I worked with coffee so long, I started just drinking instant coffee with sugar and cream, like the worst, the lowest, the cheapest, the lowest quality coffee. And I enjoyed it so much. And over time, I enjoyed it more than a really good coffee. So I went like totally opposite right now.
I love that. I love how the pendulum swung. Outside of art, what do you enjoy doing?
Not much anymore. Yeah, wow. I'm actually trying to teach myself to be able to indulge in other things. I like gaming. I love playing games a lot throughout my life. And I just recently bought Baldur's Gate 3, and finally that was something me and my girlfriend could play together on the same screen. Like, so we've been together over a year, and we are both nerds. But I played games on a PC and more like competitive gaming, like like more sports games, or I mean, to us gamers, that's sports games. And she would play on consoles. But then finally, this Baldur's Gate 3 came out, and it's amazing. I feel like a kid playing it, and I can play it on the same TV with controllers together. That's been an amazing experience. Besides that, it's just like movies, series. I love spending time like that. But I feel like I have to practice on doing it. Like, trying to sustain myself as an artist means like I just want to spend so much time doing it because I want to make sure I survive. But I've reestablished some focus on being, allowing myself to, chill, do other stuff too, and because I think it's important. Because I can sense it's important. I can sense that I was overdoing it sometimes.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah, balance is important. I mean, it's great to have the work ethic and everything and focus on that, but we also it's good to do other things as well. And I think in a way it also can then kind of contribute even back to the art as well. If you're able to like disconnect and do other things, come back to the art, and you have different inspiration and stuff as well. So I was going to mention first, before I go into the other question, that people want to request and come up to speak, feel free to request. Also, we have a really cool POAP with artwork that Custom Horror created. So if you want to get that, please leave a comment below on the space. That's how I know who is here. So that way I can identify the people that were in the audience, and I'll send you guys a link to mint that afterwards. So you did mention, as part of one of the things that you like doing is watching TV series and movies. I was curious, what would you consider your top 3 favorite movies of all time?
Okay, my Matrix blew me away early on. Fight Club is amazing to me. That's my top 2. That's probably more, but like right now, just like off the bat, it's just movies. And then series, I have to mention some series too, because like one comes to mind. I like them a little bit, like kind of weird. Devs. I really love Devs. I think it was on Netflix. That was amazing to me. And if you haven't checked it out, just watch the first episode, and you'll know if you like it or not. Like you'll know if you're if the premise entices you or not. Just the first episode. And I mean, I love a lot of series. I think series have become so great. But like Severance on Apple TV, I really enjoyed that. And that I think I could keep on naming so many, but like these, but I think Devs has like a special place in my heart, and Severance is just really good. Like and when I grew up, Fight Club, as I said, and Matrix made a really great impression.
Yeah, actually, those are two movies I really loved as well. And I remember like the first time I watched The Matrix, I just like walked out of the theater and was just like mind blown. Yeah.
Well, I was just saying, I must have been in high school or something, but to me, my little brain back then, it's like, whoa, because like there could be like, what if it's true? Yeah. like I mean, and not necessarily in the way they depict it, but like, yeah, that whole thing about like that the way we see reality might not be the reality. Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah, no, that's a mind blowing. And the Devs one, I've actually not seen that series, but so what is it kind of about? Like, what's just a short synopsis of the premise of the show?
It's like, well, I'm actually really bad at explaining things. I have actually, for sure, it is very like existential. So in short, there's this couple and they both work at this gigantic private owned tech company, and they have a section called Devs, and nobody knows what they're doing at Devs. And they both work for them, and then the boyfriend gets opportunity to work for Devs, and he goes there, is told to figure out himself what they're doing. And the scene, and without telling anything about it, but the scene is when he's just sitting at the computer with the other devs in that very special place, by the way. Very beautiful how they made it. And when he realizes what they're working on, he just goes to the toilets and pukes. And that's the first, and they don't tell you what it's about. But like, he basically doesn't really want to work there. And it's I don't know. I don't want to tell more, but like that the first episode just leaves you like, okay, what is it working on?
Yeah.
And it is very artsy. It's very like about just like existential like stuff. Like, what if it's true? Like, what this could sort of like Matrix, but not action packed at all. Like, I mean, sure, a little bit.
Cool, man. I'll have to look into that. So now I'm intrigued after what you said. So, all right. So I know we have a couple of speakers up. First one I see that came up was Anna. How you doing, Anna? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, fam. Jennifer, Giancarlo, Custom Horror, and everyone. And it is definitely TGIF. So it's been absolutely great hearing Custom Horror. I mean, I had the pleasure and the honor to be a co-host with him on Non-Origin space a few weeks ago, and we were talking about strategies and whatnot of marketing, and clearly he definitely knows what he's talking about and at least what he's doing in his game. But the other thing I cannot help myself to tell you this, Custom Horror, wait until if you ever travel to America and you try the coffee here. Trust me. It's way worse than any place in Copenhagen. I'm pretty certain of that.
No, I really doubt it, because even in Copenhagen,
I'm telling you, I've been to Europe many times.
But in any country, there'll be places where it's amazing, and then like 70% of the coffee will be crap.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then the question comes to you from all the countries that you visited. This is not my original question, but since we're talking about coffee topic, where have you had the best coffee in the world?
It has been in Denmark, but I think it's only because I live here and I got to try many more different places. I don't think it's because Copenhagen has better coffee, because I've also had a good coffee in Berlin. I've also had a good coffee in Poland.
There you go.
In these select few places.
Yeah, very select.
Exactly, but that's the same in Copenhagen. If it's just like generalized, you just go to any coffee shop. It's like, yeah, well, it is what it is.
So again, it's irrelevant to the topic of art, right? But still, the things that we consume inspire us and help us stay creative, because if we get not so great breakfast, right, per se, right, since we're talking about coffee, which is part of breakfast, it's going to be like such a yucky experience, right there from the get-go. So I don't have breakfast until noon, so coffee is the only thing I consume in the morning. But the real question is, first of all, not a question, but the thing, like, interestingly enough, I have discovered you obviously on Twitter, and I have been fascinated. I mean, I'm not personally into horror at all, and sometimes it takes me a little bit because I don't come from a traditional art world. I'm self-taught artist just like you, and it takes me a bit to understand certain aspects of different artists' expressions. So, and you are absolutely right when you named your pieces custom horror, because look, you did it the way it was to your liking, and that what I respect the most about anyone's perspective, including yours, where, look, we got to do what makes us happy at the end of the day. Like, if we don't create what makes us happy, what is the point of doing something that was already done? So definitely huge kudos to you on doing what makes you happy. Your pieces are brilliant, they vibrant, they have stories in them, and to me, stories are really important. So I didn't have many questions for you, but maybe if you would have to identify someone in the space of the time that you've been here, who has made the biggest impact on you in this time in the NFT space?
There are a few, but there's two names that always pop. So there's Xcopy, which we all know, partly because I think a major part of it is just the narrative of his success. I love his art, but like combined with the narrative of his success makes me just like idealize him. On the matter of just pure artwork and how I just like how it hits me, which actually one of the artists that makes me jealous in sometimes in a slightly negative way, is Kako, the old Morty. I love his art. So one of the best things that can happen to me in inspiration wise, but also the most detrimental to my self-esteem, is when I'm so in awe of it and I'm like, it seems like they have something I want to be, but it's not me. And then I feel like I wish I had done it. I wish I made that. And in that there's like this sort of detrimental, oh, well, this is much better than mine. But Kako, check out Kako, the old Morty. Okay.
Can you think his art into the
Yeah.
Thank you. And the other question I actually did have, and just a split second ago in my mind. Okay, the question is, where do you see, like, what is your biggest goal besides obviously selling art? But what is the biggest vision as an artist, right, that you may have in your imagination or your vision? What is your goal, right?
Yeah, it is. It is to. Wait, does this sound from me or from? I'm not sure.
Yeah, someone used to make. I think it was the chief. she or he needs to mute their mic.
I'm thinking because again, here is one of my pieces running in the background. Maybe the one where you eat with the. Imagine
You know
if
what?
you eat
Yeah.
with your mouth.
Yep. That was it. I was wondering,
Okay.
like, what's going on? Yeah, it started playing in the background.
Okay. First off, I pinned Kako's pinned post. You can sort of see his style there. There's also audio on them if you guys go to his websites. What I want to achieve as an artist is to be able. Basically, what I do now is living my dream. I just don't want the income pressure. I want to get to a point where I can, spend my time with my girlfriend, not feeling guilty about it because I feel like I have to also work. So I feel like that's the next level. That's the next level is, to reach, because I'm just interested in being able to create as often as possible because I have fun doing it. And the level after that is to actually imagine bigger projects because with freedom and time, I can also probably make up some crazy ideas. I would probably not allow myself to now. And then people say dream big. I should start big. I don't know. Maybe, we're all figuring things out. But I think that's the next thing I would love to achieve. To be able to do this without having to worry.
Right. I think, dreaming big it happens to us every day because if we don't dream and we're not able to create, that big dream will be attainable because what you're doing today will give you that possibility of a bigger and brighter future because just like you, I create each and every single day. I never stop. And just like you, I don't particularly sometimes like my own art, right? And I post it and see maybe I'll get a feedback from people, and that helps tremendously, by the way, because it's really hard to judge your own work. It really, really is. But last question for you, Custom Horror. I mean, what would be your biggest advice to anyone in the space, whether they are new in the space or they have been in the space but unsuccessful? What would be your biggest advice to anyone, NFT artist?
Stay positive. Believe that over time you'll get there. And also be a little bit realistic about it. Don't. I think the most negative thing I feel in this space or anywhere in life is entitlement. You will get there with time, and it's okay that when you. It's not okay to look at somebody that's 10 years ahead of you and be jealous of them. Cause it's natural, somebody that's been there a long time, they put more work into it and you just keep grinding. And luck is part of it, and it's nothing is fair per se, but within that it's fair. Nobody's taking anything away from you. So my point is, believe in the time spent will amount to something. And stay positive.
I love it. Thank you so much for answering that. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you. Thank you, Giancarlo and Jennifer, for letting me ask 3 questions.
Yeah, no, of course. Our pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for being here, Anna, and for coming up. Appreciate it. Great questions. All right. So I was going to go next to, and I'm not sure, I'm probably going to butcher this, but Style Llanos. Is that the, or still?
Yeah,
Llanos?
that's me.
Hey, how's it going?
Stylianos, yeah.
Yo,
How's it going, man? Guys, I just wanted to say that from my short experience with Custom, that he's such an amazing guy. He took a lot of time of his day out of his day to talk to me, and he's just an amazing guy and an even better artist. And I completely support him. And I think he's going to be one of the most important figures in NFT space now and always.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's crazy.
You're welcome.
Much love.
Much love, bro.
Well, thank you for coming up, man. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, guys.
All right, I'm gonna go next to my friend Femi. How are you doing, man? I haven't heard from you in a little bit. How you doing?
What's up? What's up, Carlo? How's it going?
It's going well, man. Having a good time here.
Good.
How are you?
Nice. I'm good, man. Just heads down, doing a bunch of work. So haven't been making it out to the spaces, but I've been trying to listen in, but not coming up on the stage. So you're always enjoying what you and Jennifer are doing for and spotlighting artists like Custom Horror. So keep up the good work, man. Keep up the good work. Hey, Custom, how you doing, man?
Hey, how are you, man? Nice to meet
I'm
you.
good. Nice to meet you. So you're from Denmark, right?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
live here. I live here. I'm born in Poland, but I've lived here most of
Okay. Do you watch football,
my life.
soccer? No. Okay. And no, I just had a little bone to pick. So in '98, '98 World Cup, Denmark. I'm Nigerian, by the way, and Denmark beat Nigeria like 4-1, and that thing broke broke my dreams.
Oh no. Bad Denmark.
No, it's all good. You know, it's funny because I think you were talking about being entitled, and I can tell you, like in Nigeria, everybody was entitled because we thought we were about to go play Brazil, right? And we're supposed to play Denmark first, and then go play Brazil, and everybody was like, "Oh, come on, we're going to beat Denmark. Come on, like let's think about what we're going to do in Brazil." Oh man, then we watched the game and Denmark beat us 4-1. Anyways,
Wow.
that yeah. It was painful, man. There are just some things from your childhood that you just don't forget, and that's kind of one of them. um, I really enjoyed your story. I think the thing that caught my attention was something you said about creating and kind of balancing quality with quantity. And on one hand, you have the perfectionists that are just like, I'm working on this special thing, whether it's music, writing. I'm not going to show anyone until it's perfect. And then you have on the other end people that just put stuff out, which is good, but you can easily get burnt out. You're putting stuff out. It's not maybe the highest quality. You're not getting the right validation, and then you can get burnt out. How do you find the balance? When do you, for you, what's the feedback or the system that you're like, okay, this is good to go, put that out, let me move on to the next thing? Do you have like a system, or do you have a feeling, a gut feeling that is like, yeah, this is ready?
Yeah, I have a gut feeling when it's ready. But first, like about this burnout thing, I do think so. First of all, like whether you're quantity versus quality, it's very much up to yourself. So this is just my way of working. Because it's very suitable to my style as well, right? Like, I mean, obviously you can't do the same with all styles out there and all types of artworks. Just look the one I just pasted, Kako. You wouldn't be able to create that artwork within 4 hours, which I can with a piece on canvas digitally, right? But like, yeah, I do have a sensation in myself, and I'm just like, this is fine, because like I think it's very therapeutic to myself. It's very much about like, when is it ready? It's ready when I feel like it. And sometimes it's because, as I said, I also create when I'm not inspired, and I also, my self-esteem is very much bound to how much art I create, or if I create art. So sometimes it's like, I can be a lazy bastard in my life, but if I create a piece of art, I'm like, oh, I did something today. And that means so much to me and to my self-esteem. Because like if I don't, and I'm also a lazy bastard in my life, and I don't even create art, then I'm just like, then I'm useless, right? I mean, I don't talk to myself like that, or I try not to, right? But like we have these kind of, it's very important how we treat ourselves. And one of the ways I treat myself is by creating art, because then I feel like I'm worthy something. And I feel like it's just like a life hack, and it's just like sort of a joke, and sort of at the same time like just amazing that art has value to people.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
like as an artist, it's an escape from reality. It's an escape from 9-to-5 jobs, and this escape to conform to a, a life where it's not, I want to be the kid. I just want to be a kid forever. I don't want obligations. With that, as an artist, there's a lot of obligations. Sure, like it's still a job. It's still like So within it, I will also create, even though I'm, as you say, and it can lead to burnout because it is still a job.
Yep. Yep.
And I don't,
Yep.
and I think I'm a victim to this too, or not a victim. I won't call it a victim. I'm to blame for this too. But if you have burnout because people don't on social media don't respond positively to your work, I think you and I should work on the perspective, because it should be for you. Because because that's external circumstances, and especially if you don't have a large following, that will destroy your mood. And for me, for instance, like, wow, I was so stressed during the crash, because like I'm not money, but like as soon as I changed back to, hey, I'm doing art for me, that's when the burnout stopped.
Mhm.
And the reality might be I have to have a side job one day. But like if I keep the focus on the art, I think this is where there's least burnout. If I keep the focus on making money or making numbers, which is also part of it, sure, but there's a risk of burnout if that's the main focus.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Especially for smaller accounts, because like you cannot rely on that. And your worth is not in the numbers, like, because we all want to grow our reach, and we should want to, if we want to, at least if we want to make money selling art, right? Like the more people see it, the bigger chances that you'll make some money showing off your art.
Yep.
Sure, that should be your goal, but on your way there, like it's a rough road, and so you shouldn't derive your energy from that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Just to add to that question, do you go back to revisit old work? So for me, I write, right, and I make music, but I find like with writing, I can see stuff I wrote like a year ago and be like, oh, okay, I need to improve this, and I go back and rewrite and do all that kind of stuff. Do you find yourself going back to improve stuff, or once it's shipped out, it's done? What was your...
Once it's shipped out, it's done. It's a representative of who you were before. You should just be proud that you move forward now. So if you look at your work before and you can see that what you do now is better, that's amazing. That means you have progress. You've better. And this is what I talked about. Have trust in time. Like over time, you will become better. So it should, in return, mean that if you look back 10 years or 5 years back and look at your work, overall, you should be making better work now. At least if it's within the same, within the same landscape. Of course, if you change entirely, if it's uncomparable, you can't really derive that from it. Mm-hmm. So I think, that's just a positive thing. But like maybe it's a waste of time of rewriting it. I don't go create new stuff. Just accept that's who you were before. Like and be happy that you can see that you can do better.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man, that's it for me. Thank you very much. I do appreciate your art. I'm gonna start following you because I wasn't following you before, but I really like your stuff. So
just follow you too. Thank you.
All right, for sure. Have a good weekend. All right, Giancarlo and Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you, Nefemi.
Thank you, Nefemi. Yeah, appreciate you coming up, man. It was nice hearing you, and thanks for asking those questions, brother.
All right, for sure. Take care.
All right, I was gonna go next to Basikovska. Hopefully I got that right. How you doing today?
Hello. Good evening. Good morning. Maybe. Hi, Giancarlo. Jennifer. Custom Horror. Nice to meet you. Oh my goodness.
Nice to meet you too.
Let me introduce myself. If you don't know, you can call me just Vasi, and my name is Maria. I'm a Russian artist, so my English is not so good, but I'll try. When I came to this space. I think I'm here for the first time. That's why I'm really happy to be here. And just wanted to know more about you because I just followed you. I think saw you not for the first time, and I just went to your link, and I saw how incredible artworks you do, and it is really incredible. I think I found some precious now. Um, hmm,
Thank
if
you so much.
if here you ask questions to Custom Horror, right?
Yeah, you can ask a question.
Um, okay, I have an interesting question as from artist to artist. um, um, have you ever had that when ideas sometimes, come to your mind when you try to sleep and you feel like this idea is really brilliant and you cannot sleep, your heart is pounding, and you try to remember this idea, but when you wake up, you get that it wasn't so good idea. Have you
For
had
sure.
something like that?
Yeah, so many times. So many times. But I don't think it's, I think my judgment of it is, I don't think it's about whether it's not a good idea. I think, because I often fall, I stay, I go to bed and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to go to bed, like you, right? And then your mind is just like grinding something in a positive way. Like, wow, I want to do this, I want to do that. And it's funny because like I don't have a practice where I actually grab that and just wake up and do it, even though I feel sometimes I should have done that because I'm like, I'll, like you do, I'm like, okay, I'll remember this and tomorrow. But the thing is, then tomorrow hits and obligations hit and you have to do this and that. And the priority just like, then it doesn't seem like a good idea, like because you're actually not inspired. You were inspired when you were laying down there in bed and you felt like, I should do that. And then you put it aside, believing that tomorrow when I think about it, I'll feel the same. And I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's just because you're not inspired anymore. You don't care about it.
It is an interesting view. Thank you for sharing. I will listen more about you in this space and maybe I will have more questions. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for asking. Thanks for coming up. I have to pee, guys. You're going to do the entertainment, man.
Well, we did have another speaker, which was NFT Pulp. And I know Custom had mentioned that you helped out a lot with doing some of the stuff he's doing. So I don't know if you want to maybe share a little bit about what you guys do at NFT Pulp.
Thank you so much, Giancarlo, Jennifer, for having me here. Am I audible clearly?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, a quick intro and maybe so we are a small team of developers and we're building a product which is centered around how artists can like strengthen their relationships with their existing collectors. So the idea is that, okay, you launch, it can be a 6 weeks program or a 12 weeks program, which is centered around a theme and it brings together your collectors in a journey of a series of artworks. And Custom Horror was actually the first artist with whom we worked. Now, having said that, actually, the reason I'm here is like, I don't have questions, but I had two interesting stories to share about Custom Horror. I mean, we have known each other for about 5 months now, and I think we spent a lot of time working on the project. So is it okay, like, if I go ahead and share them? Awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I think the first story is like why Custom Horror touched upon it a bit about his work ethics. I just wanted to highlight like, I mean, the intensity of it. I'm not sure, like maybe some of you already know, like, but last 2 to 3 weeks, Custom Horror was not doing that well. Like he had a lung infection. I mean, he was really sick. He did a few videos, but we knew like he was really unwell. And I mean, of course, we were hoping that, okay, he gets better and all. There was one thing that we were wondering is like, okay, every 2 weeks, like he creates an artwork that goes out as part of the Moments project, and the collectors, his community, they come together and mint it. And we were wondering, like, he's on his bed, he's really sick, having soup and all. And we were wondering, like, is he well enough to even do it? We are thinking about it. Like, should we go and tell the collectors that, okay, maybe this week we might have to postpone it? And this artwork, like, it goes around live on Tuesdays of every week, every second week. And somehow over a weekend, like, he picks himself up, he takes a paper, he creates an artwork, and he does all of that in a condition where, I mean, we didn't imagine that he would be able to do that. And that was insane. And you should look at the artwork and you could still feel that, okay, the amount of love and sincerity he put into it. And so that was one amazing thing that we saw, which probably illustrates like the kind of work ethics or even passion for creating that Custom Horror has. So that was the first story. The second story, so this is something Custom Horror we didn't talk about though yet. So we spent a lot of time before Moments launched, brainstorming on like the different concepts, how the platform should be built, what the artwork will be, what the theme will be, and all. But I mean, imagine like, I mean, if things are really bad now, things were really bad like a couple of weeks back also. And I mean, it suddenly hits me that, okay, I mean, we are putting this much of effort, Custom Horror is putting this much of effort, and we have no idea how this will turn out. We have no idea if anybody will show up for this program. And I hadn't shared it explicitly with him, but there was this pressure inside me that, okay, is this going to work? It might like bomb completely. And then one fine day we are having a conversation, and like Custom Horror very casually tells me that, okay, I have had editions that have not minted at all, but this, I think something good will come out of it. And that one small statement like gave us so much confidence that we went around and built it. I mean, the point I want to raise is like Custom Horror is one of those rare people like who radiates a sense of positivity and optimism, even in the most difficult times. I mean, both through his art and his personality. Like if you spend time with him, I mean, you will come back feeling really good about yourself and the world, no matter how bad it is. So, I mean, it's a short while. I mean, we have known each other for 5 months, but to be honest, like these 5 months have been like super fun. The time I've spent with Custom Horror. So yeah.
Wow.
So Custom Horror, just keep doing what you do.
Thank you. I'm just that means so much to me. I feel so warm inside now. Wow. Yeah, I enjoyed working with you guys too. Wow. Shit. If that's an impression I leave, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys so much for coming out.
Thank you for saying all that. Yeah.
And I had a question for you guys, you guys on NFT Pulp. Like, if artists do want to work with you guys to leverage what you do to connect and reward their collectors, what's the best way to like get in touch and work with you guys?
I think you can just drop us a DM over Twitter. That's the best way. And I mean, we are very open to get on a call, talk more about what we're doing. I mean, we'll be happy to help in any way it can be. Like, at least we'll be happy to share the different things that we've learned. So yeah, just drop us a DM on Twitter and we'll definitely get back to you.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming up, for saying those, sharing those awesome stories about Custom Horror, and yeah, it's quite special. Oh man, thank you. All right. So
yeah, those be away.
Oh, very sweet. All right, so I think that we got through all of our speakers for today. Last chance if anybody else wants to request and come up. Custom Horror, man, it's been really awesome. Just getting to know more about you, more about your art. There's so many good advice and things you provided today. I think that a lot of artists that are in this space right now can take away and benefit from. And yeah, we really appreciated having you in the space. I don't know why I'm getting some notifications.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, that's I enjoyed it so much. You know, I like being listened to as well. We all want some attention, and I appreciate you giving it. And if it has value to you guys who listened in and to you, that means a lot.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody that tuned in today, that was listening, that came up to speak. Do have a really cool Poe app to give away to people that were here. So to get it, please put a comment below in the space, anything. So just that way I can go back and see who was here. But yeah, really appreciate everybody that tuned in today, and hope you guys all have a wonderful day, wonderful weekend. Thank you.